Grid hacking in Ukraine, smartphone forensics shop CyberWire suffers a data breach, WhatsApp appears to have an encryption issue, but most observers think it's not really a backdoor. An update on iPyramid, WordPress gets 8 patches, ENISA issues recommended best practices for securing connected cars. A U.S. Justice Department IG will look into the FBI's investigation of classified information handling in the Clinton State Department. President Obama expands NSA's authority to share raw SIGINT with other intelligence agencies. Guccifer 2.0 wants to clear a few things up, and the shadow brokers say bye-bye, or maybe das vidanya. With that accent, sometimes it's hard to tell. Time to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, CyberSec Jobs. If you're an information security professional seeking your next career or your first career, you need to check out cybersecjobs.com and find your future. CyberSec Jobs is a veteran-owned career site and job fair company for information security professionals and students. Job seekers can create a profile, upload their resume, and search and apply for thousands of jobs. And it's great for recruiters, too. If you're an employer looking to source information security professionals, contact CyberSec Jobs about their flexible recruitment packages designed to meet your needs. To learn more, visit cybersecjobs.com. That's cybersecjobs.com. And we thank CyberSec Jobs for sponsoring our show. Major funding for the CyberWire podcast is provided by Cylance. I'm Dave Bittner in Baltimore with your CyberWire summary for Friday, January 13th, 2017. The power outages in the Kiev metropolitan area sustained on December 17th, 2016 continue to be ascribed to hacking and to the same Russian operators believed to be behind the similar hacks of December 2015. Researchers at Information System Security Partners, ISSP, are doing most of the on-the-record discussion. Observers differ as to whether the hack is nuisance, demonstration, misdirection, trial run, or some mix of all of these. CyberWire, the mobile forensic firm that established a reputation as law enforcement's go-to shop for unlocking smartphones, confirms that it suffered a data breach. Motherboard says the lost information includes databases, customer data, and technical notes on the company's offerings. Motherboard also says the stolen data is legit. They're in touch with people who say they're involved in the breach, and those contacts represent themselves as hacktivists protesting recent moves by Western governments to ratchet up surveillance capabilities. CyberWire yesterday issued a statement acknowledging the breach, which it characterized as unauthorized access to an external web server that included a legacy backup of the company's end-user license management system. It's investigating, cooperating with the authorities, and is in the process of notifying affected customers. The company advises my.CyberWire account holders to change their passwords. A University of California crypto expert reports a flaw in WhatsApp end-to-end encryption that observers say could enable Facebook to read WhatsApp messages. That, of course, is contrary to WhatsApp and Facebook declared policy. WhatsApp says the apparent bug is really a feature designed to make security and privacy easy for people who might frequently change devices or SIM cards. They advise users to turn on security notifications. The flaw was widely described as a backdoor, but that, according to most experts, isn't an accurate characterization of the issue. An issue then, but probably not really a backdoor. More news and speculation appear about the Italian brother and sister accused of spying on Italian bigwigs for years using iPyramid spyware. The motives remain unclear, but may have involved gathering insider information useful in various forms of financial speculation. The widely used blogging platform WordPress has patched 8 security issues, including cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery vulnerabilities. ENISA offers a report on best practices for securing connected cars. Their recommendations are organized into 3 sections: policy and standards, organizational measures, and security functions, and they appear to represent the sort of familiar common sense that best practices often do. The Justice Department's Inspector General has announced an inquiry into the FBI's handling of the Bureau's investigation of former Secretary of State Clinton's handling of classified information. Director Comey says he welcomes the scrutiny. The outgoing Obama administration has loosened restrictions on NSA's sharing of raw data with other agencies. Privacy advocates are unhappy, but the worries seem to be in part of the slippery slope variety, in which the removal of requirements to scrub information inadvertently collected on U.S. citizens could lead to the exploitation of such information by other federal agencies. The changes are summarized by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence as follows. The letters IC in the summary refer, of course, to the intelligence community. First, only allow IC elements to access raw SIGINT in circumstances where the information will further a foreign intelligence or counterintelligence mission in a significant way. Do not permit raw SIGINT to be accessed for law enforcement purposes. Do not apply to information collected under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, including Section 702. Establish rules that a recipient IC element must follow when accessing, processing, or retaining raw SIGINT, or disseminating information derived from SIGINT. These rules closely follow those used by the NSA. Set up extensive training, auditing, oversight, and compliance requirements that are comparable to the NSA's for similar activities, and require periodic reauthorization of access and high-level reviews of activities conducted under the procedures. And finally, some of everyone's favorite hackers, hacktivists, agents, crooks, or sock puppets are back. You can take your pick on which one of these descriptions to buy. For some reason, it's still controversial, and our stringers almost come to blows over the issue. In any case, they make their return to the cyber stage as the week comes to a close. First are the shadow brokers, they of the Hekawi-accented scriptwriter's broken English. Take a bow and exit, not, we think, pursued by a bear. The bears have other pursuits, right fancy? But because they see much risk coming in and few bitcoins going out, says they. So as they bow, they release a bunch of alleged equation group weapons and say, in effect, Das Vidanya, we're out of here. Wealthy elite will miss them, we're sure. And that big auction never went anywhere for them. Skeptics will be forgiven for suspecting that the auction wasn't the point of the whole exercise to begin with. So, shadow brokers, as you come in from the cold, stay warm and keep the light on for Guccifer 2.0, who also frets another hour on the boards. This one is back to comment on the U.S. intelligence community's conclusions that the Russian government has been up to no good in American political networks. Guccifer 2.0 says, and wants all of us to know, quote, I have totally no relation to the Russian government, end quote. So that settles it. Say hello to Fancy and the gang, Goose, and happy Friday the 13th to you and the gang. Time for a moment from our sponsor, NetSparker. You know how to tell a false positive from a real threat? NetSparker does. If it's exploitable, it's real. NetSparker's distinctive automated scans drive out the false positives, save you money, and improve security. Their approach is proof-based scanning. NetSparker's innovative scanning engine automatically exploits the vulnerabilities it identifies in websites and presents you with a proof of exploit. You don't need to verify the scanner findings to see if they include false positives. If NetSparker tells you it's bad, trust them, it's bad. Remember, if it's exploitable, then it is definitely not a false positive. Learn more at netsparker.com. But wait, there's more. And we really do mean more. Go to netsparker.com/cyberwire for a free 30-day trial of NetSparker Desktop. It's fully functional. Scan your websites with NetSparker and let them show you how they do it. That's netsparker.com/cyberwire. And we thank NetSparker for sponsoring our show. Joining me once again is Joe Kerrigan. He's from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Joe, I saw recently there's been some talk about this notion that our mobile phone numbers, we should be protecting them in the same sorts of ways that we protect our social security numbers, that perhaps we're being a little too cavalier in our willingness to give out our mobile phone numbers. What's your take on that?
I understand that there's a concern in there, and I think the concern is not invalid, that at some point in time we're going to start seeing these man-in-the-middle attacks on like two-factor authentication.
Right.
I think the source you're citing said that we shouldn't be using our mobile phone for two-factor authentication. We should be using something else.
Right, because of the possibility of a man-in-the-middle that
right.
It's not as secure as we think it is.
And it probably isn't as secure as we think it is. But here's the difference between my mobile phone number and my social security number. It's very easy for me to get a new mobile phone number. I can change that, and I can go through and change the information in the sites that I need to change it in, and I'm done. Getting a new Social Security number is not so easy. Very difficult. Additionally, when you're talking about using your mobile phone for two-factor authentication, the purpose of doing that is to take advantage of the multiplicative nature of adding a second factor. So now somebody not only has to have your username and your password, which is what we call a single factor, even though it's actually two things, but it's just a single factor. Now they have to get another factor of having your phone number and physically intercepting the message from one point to the next. That makes it more difficult to do. So I still think it's good to use your mobile phone for two-factor authentication. There are better options. In fact, some of them are even mobile phone based where they don't require your phone number, like Google Authenticator.
Right. So I guess for the time being, certainly two-factor is better than single-factor,
right?
No matter what.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it seems like there are certain use cases, perhaps people in certain situations who, I don't know, high risk, high security kinds of things, where it's important not to believe that two-factor using a mobile phone number is more secure than it actually is.
Right. If you're of high enough value, then you should probably not be using your phone for two-factor authentication. You should probably be using something like an RSA token or Google Authenticator, which doesn't require any communication after the initial setup.
Joe Kerrigan, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Time for a message from our sponsor, E8 Security. Once an attacker's in your network, there's a good chance they'll use command and control traffic to do the damage they have in mind. Could you recognize it? E8's analytics can. Here's what malicious C2 traffic might look like. Newly visited sites, visits to a website that doesn't have the features a legitimate site usually does, like a high number of pages, a fully qualified domain name, or a distinct IP address, or the association of a website with a limited number of user agents. That's tough for a busy security team, but it's easy for E8's behavioral intelligence platform. For more on this and other use cases, visit e8security.com/DHR and download their white paper. That's e8security.com/DHR. E8 Security. Detect, hunt, respond. And we thank E8 for sponsoring our show. My guest today is Allison Burke, Executive Director of the Stanford Cyber Initiative. The Stanford Cyber Initiative is a research and education initiative that was established by the Hewlett Foundation in 2014 to study how cybersecurity fits into society in a more general sense than the traditional notion that cybersecurity is mainly a problem for computer scientists.
Our particular purview in terms of research and education is what we're calling cybersocial systems. And those are the integration of secure cyber technologies into the different systems within society, like the healthcare system, the financial system, the labor system, and so on. And so our research takes a unique view on those systems and looks at how secure cyber technologies are affecting and complementing the activities that already go on in those systems and what security needs those systems have that are unique that research could help with.
So let's dig in a little deeper to that, because that cyber social systems is not a term that I've heard before. What are you hoping to achieve by approaching that side of things?
Yeah, so it's a new term that we came up with that I suppose we're trying to popularize. And our hope is that we can both produce policy-relevant research that goes beyond the sort of academic or ivory tower view of cybersecurity as something that is highly technical or that is sort of a specialized set of skills. Our hope is that our research can show how cybersecurity is more of a shading to problems that might arise in other sectors of society as opposed to sort of its own unique field or unique discipline. We want to show how cybersecurity affects problems in the labor industry, for example, with new forms of worker platforms or ways for workers to combine different tasks and form a job that they can do remotely or that they can do as part of the gig or contract economy. We want to show how that affects both labor security and the security of the platforms that are offering those types of jobs. Another example is that we want to show how the healthcare system has unique cybersecurity needs that go beyond the issues of patient data security that are addressed by HIPAA or high-tech laws, and look at how physicians are using patient records digitally to better serve patients, how patients can have a better relationship with their physician via things like video calling and online chat, and how patient data can be securely provided to health researchers in a way that would benefit the entire population while also preserving patient privacy. So we do think that cybersecurity is something that will become more and more of a skill that's integrated into multiple professions and into different types of education, rather than just being something that only computer scientists focus on.
And so what is the process by which you hope to explore these possibilities?
Sure. Education is a large part of it. We support undergraduate courses, as well as cyber policy boot camps for policymakers and congressional staffers and media. We're looking into offering those also for law enforcement and reaching out to other sectors of society. But our primary way of affecting this change is through research. So every year we fund approximately $1.1 million in research projects that are multidisciplinary with faculty on the Stanford campus who are running the projects. The multidisciplinarity angle is important to us and also important to Stanford in the sense that every project involves a collaboration between schools or between departments. So we'll have computer scientists working with sociologists or with people from the School of Education, from the School of Business, or from the School of Law, so that we can get that kind of better integration of cybersecurity into different disciplines through these projects. And then, of course, communicating the results of those projects in such a way that they reach think tanks and policymakers and important decision makers and go beyond sort of the academic publishing platform is also important to us. We're still searching for different creative ways to do that. One way is through white papers and through the sort of executive education conference events that we have. Another way is through the podcast that we run or through a weekly newsletter. But we're hoping to be able to reach a much broader sector of society than the traditional academic publication, because we understand that people who are concerned with cybersecurity or for whom cybersecurity affects part of their job may not be reading conference publications or they may not be reading academic journals, but could still benefit from the research that we're producing.
And looking forward, how will you measure success?
We're hoping to measure success based on our impact on policy and on conversations that occur around cybersecurity, both in the U.S. and globally. Hopefully, one way we could measure that is by the proliferation of this view of cybersocial systems, or that cybersecurity is a firmly entrenched part of multiple jobs and sectors that aren't simply data science or computer science. We're also hoping to measure success by the number of projects that we're able to support and by the distribution of our research across fields. Our projects currently touch 6 out of 7 of Stanford's schools, and we're hoping to add a project that involves the last school, the School of Earth, Energy, and Environmental Science. And so hopefully our impact will be measured by the familiarity and the utility of our research results and of our contribution to the discourse.
That's Allison Burke from the Stanford Cyber Initiative. They have a podcast, by the way. It's called Raw Data. You can find it in all the usual places. Check it out. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, along with interviews, our glossary, and more, visit thecyberwire.com. Thanks to all of our sponsors who make the CyberWire possible, and special thanks to our sustaining sponsor, Cylance. Learn more about how Cylance prevents cyber attacks at cylance.com. The CyberWire podcast is produced by Pratt Street Media. Our editor is John Petrick. Our social media editor is Jennifer Iben, and our technical editor is Chris Russell. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Have a great weekend, everybody.